All right. Let me get rid of that. So last class we talked about, well, we actually reviewed the exam, okay? And then we created two functions, two methods. One is to do factorization. Suppose I give you an integer, and then you're trying to get a list of factors. The list of factors, we use the list as output, and the input, of course, just integer. And the code we wrote was basically the same thing we did before. So 2 weeks ago, when we do while loop, we practice how to do, for example, get all the factors 2 out, so divide by 2 constantly. And then every time is as long as the number can be divided by 2, and then you add a 2 to that, and then divide by 2, and then going back. So this will the first loop will get you all the 2s, okay? And after that, the number should be even, should be odd number. And then after that, you're going to check for 3 and 5 consecutively. So you use nested loops. First, use a for loop, and then go through 3, 5, and every time increase by 2, because you don't need to consider even number anymore, because even the number is not going to be even anymore, right? Because after you take all factor 2s out, then the number is going to be odd number. And then for each of these 2, 3, or 5, and then you're going to just do the same thing as with 2. So as long as the number can be divided by 3, for example, if I is 3, then you just add 3 to the list, and then you divide it by 3, and then going back. So then that will take care of all the 3s, okay? And then you go to 5, and then you go to 7, like that. So eventually, the list will contain prime factors for the integer. Okay, Kyle? All right. So the second one we did was we create a function that will return max, mean, standard deviation, variance, everything. So if I give you a list of numbers, and that is actually an interesting function. Remember, we just used the one loop. So we were a little bit rushed for that. Let me just try to do that function again, okay? So anyway, we do not have I did that in school, so we will have to just create a new project to do that. And then after that, today's main topic is about reference parameters. And after we finish that function quickly, and then we'll go back to coming back to the main lectures. So let's create new project. And then let's see, it's going to be C#. Windows Forms. Okay, so next. Okay, so let's, which one we should use? 7th example. I will save that to my desktop. Okay. And then press create button. Okay, so let's, we're going to come back to the form and then trying to create a form to apply the function. But first, let's just go to the code section. So we're going to right mouse click on the forms.cs. Okay, and then view code. Okay, so remember this is a project and this is the class, and then the functions must be created inside the class. So I'm going to collapse form1. Okay, that's constructor. So the function we are going to create is going to be using outer parameters. So let's just call that a stat. So first, the input is going to be list of double numbers. It's a list, right? List double. Okay. And then let's just say that's data, that's the input. And then we're going to have outputs, many outputs. So each one is going to be out parameter. So out double, let's say that's a minimum. out double, that's the maximum. Out double, let's just say mean. Out double, let's see, that is sum. Okay, out double, let's say there's a variance. Okay, then we can have more. Let's just say out double std dev. Okay, so this is our basic statistics. Of course, you can also create some other more sophisticated statistics. So that anything you learn in data analytics, I think what is the course title? Business analytics. You know, the 341, something like that. Okay, so anything inside that, you use, I think you use JMP, right? And then all the code, you just basically use mouse clicks. So basically everything there, you can just use C# to program those functions. Okay, so in other words, you really don't need to use JMP. You can just program those functions yourself. All right, so now let's see what do we do? So point that is we are going to use just one loop to find everything. Okay, so the data is given, those parameters, all the parameters, we do not have to declare them inside the function because they are given to you. All right, so without those, then we have to say what is in the declare variable like a sum, and then calculate the sum, right, using loop, and then declare a variable called a mean, and then find out what's the minimum, and declare a variable called a max, what is the maximum. But all those variables are already given to you because they are all the parameters here. So we do not need to declare them anymore. So the only thing we need is just make sure that we are going to use a for loop. Okay, let's write a for loop first. Okay. In last class, I used for each loop. So now this time I will use for loop, just regular for loop. Integer I equal to 0. Okay, and I less than data.count. Okay, so that's total number of numbers for the list. And then I plus plus, right? Curly brackets. All right. So before the loop, make sure you declare the variables you need. So to calculate the mean variance, of course, we need a sum, right? So we will declare sum, but the sum is already given to you. So only thing we need is just make sure that we initialize it. So sum equal to 0. So that's always the case when you do use a loop to calculate the sum, calculate additions, just initialize the result to 0. And then next, we also need to calculate the mean, minimum, and the maximum. I just want to use one loop. Okay. So for mean and the max, if you're trying to find the mean and max, then trying to initialize that to the first item in the data. So it will be data 0. Okay. Same thing for add max. You also initialize to data 0. Just initialize the first item. We're trying to find a mean. There's no multiplication here, so if there's a multiplication, then you initialize to 0. You initialize to 1. All right. So those are the tips. And then to calculate the variance, remember I want to do. I think I gave you the formula before, right? So that was, let me see what I do here. Let's just try to use my screen to write that. Word. I hope I can just using pen here. So remember the variance. If you have like given variable, given like a data x1, x2, x3, xn, right? And the variance can be calculated as such. Variance, VRIC. The variance will be calculated as x1 squared plus x2 squared, xn squared, and then minus n times mean squared. So that means you have the finite, right? And then divided by n. Right. So I think one of your homework was I told you how to do this. Oh, for your homework, I did not tell you that. I told you to do this way. So for your homework, I told you to do x1 minus the mean squared plus x2 minus the mean squared. Okay, and then you just add that, and then so that's my screen size is not. So basically just continue to type, just do something like this for all x n's, okay, and then divided by n. So that was a standard formula for calculating variance and for calculating variance, and that's what you learned in statistics class, okay. I think it's like a 340 something. Okay, so you learn how to do that in statistics class, but there's another way, which is this method. This one is actually, you can, it's just simple math. You can convert this to this one. This one, by using this approach, by using this formula, you actually can simplify the calculation without using two loops. So if you use this one, you have to use two loops. First, you find the mean first, and then you calculate, use another loop to calculate the sum of the squares. Okay, but when you use this one, you don't have to. So I will just use one loop. All right. But however, I need to find out. I need to have a way of calculating sum of these squares. x1 square plus x2 square plus xn square. Okay. So that is also sum of the squares, but sum of the square is not a variable inside my parameter list, so I have to declare that first. So let's just call that square sum, okay? And also initialize to 0. Okay, so with all this initialization before the loop, I think we are ready to do the sums, to calculate the numbers we need. So to calculate the sum, that basically just for everyone, the sum equals to sum plus theta square I. That is simple, right? So the sum of x1 plus x sum, like x1 plus x2 or plus xn. So that will be done by this one formula. And then square sum is also simple. Square sum will be equal to square sum plus square xi squared. So that will be mass dot the power, and then the xi will be theta I, and then comma 2. So that is also easy to find the square sum, right? Okay, so what else we need? Then to find the mean, then every time for theta I, we just need to compare the mean with, compare theta I with this mean. So see whether theta I is smaller than that. If theta I is smaller than this current mean, I will swap it. So I will just say if theta I is less than the current mean, then I'm going to change the mean to theta I. Okay, same idea. If we're trying to find a max, if theta I is bigger than max, then I will make the max to be theta I. So by the way, if theta I is greater than mean, then the current mean is still good, right? You do not need to change it. You do not want to fix it. Do not want to change it. Okay. So similarly, if theta I is bigger than max, that means the current max is not really max, then we'll change the max to theta I. Does that make sense? Okay, so of course, if theta I is smaller than the max, then you don't need to change anything because the current max is still good, right? And then you go through every item, and then eventually you will find your max, find your mean, okay, and then find your sum. Then after the loop, we are ready to calculate the mean. So mean will be equal to sum divided by theta data count. Right? So 1 is the mean already find. Max already decided by this loop, and the mean is already decided by the loop. Okay, and the sum is already decided by the loop. There's no more change, nothing you need to calculate further. And then the only thing we need to do is just calculate the mean, this mean value, which is average, and we also calculate the variance, right? So let's do the variance here. Variance will be equal to parentheses square sum, and then minus n, which is data dot count, multiplied by mean squared. So we'll do math to the power mean comma 2 mean squared, and the whole thing divided by n, which is data dot count. Okay, so that is variance. So we calculate the variance using this formula, and then standard deviation will be just simply square root of that. So standard STD DEV will be equal to mass times square root of variance. Okay. And then make sure you check every all outputs have been given values by this function. Okay, and then input, of course, you have to use input, and we calculate the mean, max, mean, sum, variance, standard deviation. There we go. So this function will be ready for you to use to do statistics. Okay, now let's do it, and that should be simple. So we will use this form here. So what I will do is I will create a list box. That shows some kind of list of numbers. Okay, list of numbers. So let's just put the given name here. Let's say ls list box, lst list data. Okay, list data. Okay, and then I'm going to put a button here. So the button is going to call the function to do calculations. So let's call that btn compute. Okay, and then let's also change the label. So compute. All right. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to show the result. The result is going to be like a variance. What is variance? What means what, and then all the statistics will be listed. So I'm going to use text box for that. Okay, so let's first of all give it a name for the text box. Let's just say this is txt result. And also I want to make that text box to be multi-line so that I can show different result in different lines. So multi-line is true. Like that. Okay. Okay, are you ready? Now let's try to call the function. So first of all, double click on the button. So let's say for this function, for input, we need the data, so which is the list. So let's create a list first. Okay, list double. Let's just say that is data or values, does not matter. Equal to new list. Okay. And then we need to initialize the data. So let's just use a random number generator to generate the list. Okay. So generate. So let's just say use for loop or while loop, does not matter. So integer I equal to 0 and I less than, let's just say generate how many numbers? 200 numbers, okay, and I plus plus. So I'm going to generate use a loop to generate the numbers. So before that, I'm going to create a random number generator. Random. So let's say my generator equals to new random. And then we just need to call that function, just call that generator numbers. So I will also declare a variable, let's say double, say x, okay? And then every time I use x equals to my generator dot next double, okay? And that will give us a number between 0 to 1. So let's say I want that number to be like between 0 to 100, okay? So I'll multiply by 100, okay? And then I will add that x to the list. So data dot add and x. So now this loop will help you to generate the list of data to put inside the data. So input is ready. And now we need to declare variables for output. And for those, since they are output, so we do not need to initialize them. So we just simply declare them, okay? Double. So we need a minimum, maximum, mean, sum, variance, and then standard deviation. What else? That's everything we need, right? So let me check. So we need a minimum, maximum, mean, sum, variance, and standard deviation. And these names, these variables are arguments, right? The arguments just make sure their type must be matching those other parameters. Okay. So for example, this the argument for this one must be a double. Argument for this one must be also double. So have to match those. Okay. But the name does not have to match it. You don't have to use exactly the same. So for example, I can use minimization, minimum, okay, or maximum, something like that, okay. Or I can use this as average. Those arguments, okay, those arguments just can have different names as the parameter names. And now we are ready to call the function. So to call the function because the function is a void, so you do not need to put this function on the right hand side of anything. So just call the function as like a command. Okay. So do stat, okay, stat, and then parentheses, and then immediately you will be given a hint to say what you need to put as arguments. The first one is input, which is data. So I use the same name here, so data here. And the second one is the minimum. So I will say out and then minimum. Do the same thing, out and then maximum. And then out, mean. Do I use average? I use average, okay? And then out, sum. And then out, variance. And then out, stdev. Okay? And now after you call the function, all those outputs will carry value back to here. So remember, you call this function. This is a caller, right? This function is a caller. You call this function, and then you just tell this function, I give you this data, and then you use this code to tell me what is my minimum, what is my maximum, and what's all these values, what is this output, and then this function will tell you what are those outputs by telling those by giving values to those output arguments. Okay, and now we are ready to report result. Okay, so let's try to report the result. First of all, I am going to show the data in the list box. Okay, lst the data source equals to data. Okay. Next, I'm going to show all this output using the text box. Okay, so for txt result.text and equals to, so I'm going to just put, let's say, minimum, okay, so colon, and then plus minimum. Okay, so that will give you just a minimum. Okay, and then let's just keep on adding that. So every time let's just add like a new line. So I'm going to do txt result dot text equals to txt result dot text. Okay, plus let's say going to use double quotes \n and \r, so that will represent the new line, and then plus. So we're going to get next result. So maximum colon maximum. Okay, colon, and then let's just say plus the actual value maximum, actual variable maximum. Okay, so that will give you the second line, which shows the maximum. And continue, I'm going to show you the average, sum, or everything. Okay, txt result text equals to txt result text. So this time also add a new line, double quotes \r \n. Should be \new line and the which we go first. New line return probably new probably RNN new line, I think. Okay, we'll try that. And then let's say this time I will go to say mean value plus average. Okay. And then do the same thing. So I'm going to just copy this instead of typing the whole thing. Okay. So after mean, then I will show sum. Let's see, sum, and then we change that to sum here. Okay, so you have double quotes here. I type up double quotes. I delete double quotes. Okay, then do it again. And this time we'll do variance. And this is VIR. So it's just whatever variable argument, variable name that you use for output. Okay. Originally was inside the function was called a variance, but here you call that as a VAR. Okay. So you have to use that one. Okay. Next one, standard deviation. And that is STDEV in this current section, STDEV. Okay, so there we go. And I think that we are ready to test this. Let me see whether you need me to pause for a second.
Professor, I just got one question. For the for loop at the very beginning with the random number generator, why you multiply it by 100?
Oh, yeah, because there's a next double, which just generate number between 0 to 1. So if I multiply by 100, then I will generate number between 0 to 100.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, ready to test? Let's see. Okay, compute. All right, so we have a list of numbers here, 200. And then this give you something's wrong here. Minimum, maximum, and then starting from mean, I have errors. So let me see what happened after mean. Let me see. So the first one is the minimum. Second one is the maximum. You right? Then from here, so I get arrow. Why? Let's just see. It's because of your return first and then new row, new line. Let's see. Sometimes might be because of that. So R means return, M means new line. Okay. All right, let me test again. Yeah, that was the reason. Now still there's one more. Oh, this standard deviation is too long. Standard deviation is too long because it's wrapped. So this was too long. Okay, so text box was automatically wrapping. Okay, there we go. So this is correct. All right. Okay, so that was we rushed a little bit last class and end of class, and then so today I just make it up. Okay, and now let's come to. Does anybody have questions? Do you have any questions? So what I'm going to do is talk about so-called the reference parameter. So what is the reference parameter? Let me show you what we have done so far. Okay, so let's see. So Max order what does let me give can I get a new page? Let me see, maybe insert page break blank page or something like that. Okay, so let's do that. So we learned how to handle output parameters. So if I have function here, okay, so I have inputs, so x, y, and then if I have outputs, say this is w, u, or v, whatever. So usually you will make this as input parameters, and this is output parameters, right? And so-called reference parameter is in the case that if some inputs and outputs, you can use the same variable, then you don't have to recreate another output variable. You can just use the same variable. Okay, so in a sense that output, let me switch to my switch to another screen, so that way I don't have to. Let's go to share my second screen here. Okay, and then over here I can just use my whiteboard. Okay, one, and then. So if you have a function that has inputs and outputs, but for some reason that this input and output can be really combined as just a one like a one variable, one parameter. And so in other words, this parameter can be used as input and also as output at the same time. What is reason for that? You can think of like just say I want to save my memory, okay? But it's more than that actually. So suppose you have a variable say x, okay? You as input, and then this function is just basically to change this value x. Then you do not have to create another y and as output. What you can do is you can make this x and this also, and make this combine this x and y as a one reference parameter. So in terms of functions or reference parameter, plays the role of input and output. Okay, so this is in terms of say what is the purpose of this reference parameter. But then concept-wise, a reference parameter is the address for the address for the data to be input to and output from. Now let me explain this, okay? Now let's just say we have a function here. Okay, this function can be anything. Let's just do something, okay? Do something, this function. All right, and then you're trying to write a code, okay? Line by line, and then you're trying to call this function and ask function to do something for you, okay? So when you call this function, of course, you need to give this function the data, right? Input, okay? But instead of creating a copy of the data, you declare a variable, initialize that, and then you create a copy of that. Instead of doing that, instead of creating a copy to tell this, this data, copy of my data, and then trying to calculate that and then give me the result. Instead of doing that, what you would do is you can ask this function, say, here, this is my data, okay? So this is my X, okay? And this is my Y, whatever you need inputs. And then you tell this function, say, and my data inputs are here. And then you just using this, I tell you the address of this data. And then this function will go to these locations, find this data, and then do calculation, and then return the result. And then this function actually will just return the result using this X, Y's. So well, you can just imagine this, okay? So when you do, like when you submit your homework to me, okay, for me to do grading, you can think of, so usually you will submit a copy to me, right? So then when you submit a copy to me, and then I make changes to your copy, and then your original copy will not be affected. So you still have original copy with you, right? Original copy will be still intact. But then there's a second approach. You can submit a homework. You can just say, Professor Liu, my homework is in this location, some kind of like a cloud drive, right? And then please go to there, grade my homework. Okay, so that is of course not very common, but you just imagine that you can do that. So if that is the case, and then what I will do is I will go to find the location, I can find your cloud drive, and then open up your file and make changes. And then when I make changes, and you will be able to see the changes yourself, right? So your copy will be modified by me. Does it make sense? So essentially, the reference parameter is just like that. Just like I say, you tell me the address of your file, and then I go to the location, make changes. Does it make sense? So because of this nature, this reference parameter can be used to play the role of both input and output. Okay. So in other words, you might be able to minimize. You can reduce the number of parameters for function call for function. Instead of creating so many functions, you can just create maybe fewer functions, fewer parameters. Okay. So that is the main idea. So let me give you a simple idea. Let's say a real example here. Okay. Suppose I have a function that is trying to adjust employee's salary. So let's just say the name is adjust salary. Okay. So to adjust salary, of course, you need to know what is existing salary, right? Which is double. And then you also need to know what is the rate to be adjusted, right? So rate. So that is also double. So those are input, all right? And then after the function is finished working, it's going to be returning some new salary, right? New salary, okay? Which is also double, right? Okay, so this new salary and old salary kind of like just a value difference, right? Otherwise, the type and then nature are the same. So instead of using function like this, instead of doing something like say, so what it would do is you can say something like this: double adjust salary, and then for the two inputs, one is double salary, another one is double, and the rate, double rate. Let me put rate here. Okay, and then you're trying to put a code in here to see how this function is going to be done. So the job is actually very easy, right? So basically just say salary is a return, okay, return the result. Result is going to be salary multiplied by 1 plus rate, right? So that is a simple job, right? So instead of doing that, using this two inputs and then also one output, or you can use output parameter too. So you can use output, then you're going to do a void, and then say adjust salary, and then you say double, which is input, and then you can just say this salary, okay, and then double, and then say rate, and then you're going to have output, right? So that will be out, and then double, and then just say new salary, right? New salary. Okay, and then you can write a code, essentially just same thing. So new salary equals to salary multiplied by 1 plus rate. Okay, so new salary equals to salary multiplied by 1 plus rate, right? So this is the second way you write the same function. Okay, so instead of doing all these two, it's just this is what we learned in the last week or so. So instead of doing that, we can just create a function as like using reference parameter. So what we do is instead of creating two parameters, one for salary and one for new salary, you can just combine these two, this one and this one, into reference parameter. Okay, so what I will do is say void, and then adjust salary. Okay, and then we'll just say rev double, and then salary. And then for other parameters, for regular ones like just rate, we do not, that's not output, so that's just input only. So we'll say double rate. Okay, and then how do you call it? How do you do this? How do you write the code? So basically, the code will be just simple. Say the salary that is output will be equal to old salary multiplied by 1 plus rate. So this will be the third approach to write the code. Okay, so with that concept, now we are ready to write code using reference parameters, and we'll do a few examples to see how we're going to create, how we're going to use function to create, how do we use reference parameter to create functions, and also how we're going to call those functions. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to other screen. Okay, so let's go back to our Visual Studio. And this time, let me just go back to the writing functions. So let's go to Forms, View Code. So let's say we already have two functions created. So I'm going to collapse that one and collapse this one. So two functions, okay? So now let's create the function that will be using like a salary adjustment, right? So that will be void. Okay, so adjust salary. Okay, and then say rev, and then double salary, comma, and then double rate. You understand that this second one is not a reference parameter, it's just a regular parameter for input. Okay, so now we are ready to just write the code. So basically the code is simple. Say salary equals to salary, that will be old one, multiplied by 1 plus rate. Okay, so suppose you have some kind of promotion. This is rate of promotion, and then the new salary will be that. And that's it. There's no need for return because the function itself is just a void. And so to understand the reference parameter, you just imagine that this one is input and also as output. Okay, so input is used here and output is used here. Does that make sense? So to continue the same example, similar example, so continue the same idea, let's just do another one which might be a little bit more, make more, well, this one is actually makes sense. So basically, you know, if you have salary, you know, call this function, you basically tell this function, say my salary location is here, you go to this place using this rate to change this salary. So this function will do it based on this address. Okay, so this is actually address, not actual copy of the value of salaries. All right, so next I'm going to do, let me just do that using what, so I don't like to switch back and forth here. Suppose I have two inputs, A and B, okay? And then I want this function to sort the number in certain order, like in descending order or ascending order. Okay, so in descending order, then there will be, this is a max of A and B, and this is the mean of A and B. So let's just say this is sort. Does it make sense? Or if it's if we want to ascending, then you want to change this to the first one to what? First one to minimum, and the second one is maximum. Okay. So in this case, you say that both inputs are double and the output is also double. They both are the same thing, right? So instead of creating four parameters, 2 for inputs and 2 for outputs, we can combine these outputs with this input using just 2 parameters. So what we could do is we can just do something like this, say void, okay, sort, okay, and then 2 parameters, so ref A, ref double A, and then ref double B. Okay, so then, depending on whether is ascending or descending, then you can change it. So for example, if you want to do ascending, then you want to make A to be smaller than B. If it's descending, then you want to make A to be bigger than B. So original value A, B, whatever value you give it, you just simply swap those values if the order is not right. Okay, so that is the main idea. That's the idea. So now I will do this, and then I will add another parameter, just say ascending or descending, and then just do the first easy one first, okay? So let's just say void, okay, sort, and then ref double A, and then ref double B, okay? Now let's just try to say this function is going to do ascending order. So that means you want, so no matter what is the first number, second number given, and I want to make after this function call, I want A to be the smaller number. So I want this to be, let me mark this. Okay, let me mark this as to sort in ascending order. Okay. So what do we do? So basically, we just need to make sure that A is smaller than B. Okay. If A is already bigger, smaller than B, then there's nothing we need to do. So if A is bigger than B, then we basically need to just swap it, okay? Just swap A and B. So to swap that, we need to declare some kind of like a temporary one, okay? So make that equals to A first. And then you change A to B. And then B equals to 10. Okay, so that it was, so basically you want to do ascending order, so you want A to be smaller, so if in case A is bigger than B, then just swap these two. There we go. So this is how you're doing this. You're going to do the sorting. Does anybody have questions? So we learned how to do swapping, right? Okay, so basically here, if since we are assuming that it's ascending order. Now let's try to create another function which will give us specific directions. Okay, so void and then say sort also, and then I will say rev double A and the rev double B. All right, and then we need to specify whether it's ascending or ascending or descending. So I use another parameter, just say order. Okay, and then for this, so you can just say this order equal to something. Let me just put a default here. So in case order is default is ascending, default is ascending. So this is how you specify a parameter with default values. So what does it mean that here is you could call this function without giving a parameter value for this order. So if that's not given, then this ascending will be assumed. Ascending will be assumed. Okay, so that is so-called default parameters. So let's just put this here. Function with default parameter. Okay. And again, we use still use two reference parameters. Okay, so A, B. So now we can decide if it's A, then we will do something to say if A is bigger than B, then we do something. Okay, so let's just say if, first of all, if this order is equal to A, that means ascending. Okay, if it's ascending, then what do? We will just make sure that if A cannot be bigger than B, right? So if A is greater than B, then I'm going to swap. So do the same thing. So double temp, let's make that equal to one of the value, and then make A equals to B, and then B equals to temp. So that is ascending case, ascending. Now otherwise, else, so the else, that means descending order. If it's descending order, then we have to make sure that A is bigger than B. Okay, A is bigger than B. If A is not, if A is smaller than B, then we swap it. If A is smaller than B, then we are going to swap. So double temp equals to A, and then make B equals to, make A equals to B, and then B equals to temp. So swap any value, any B. So you see that it's just all just opposite. So if the descending order, then make sure A is bigger than B. Okay, at least equal to B, not smaller than B. If it's smaller than B, you swap it. All right, so that is another function, another sort of function with specific sorting order. Now, some of you may ask, can I create two functions like this with same name here? What is the answer? The answer is yes, if they have different signatures. And so functions with same names inside one class are called overloaded function, and the function can overload each other if they have different parameter, different signatures. So what is signature? A signature is basically consists of the name and also list of parameters. So in other words, this is signature. So the first part is not part of it. Okay, so this the void whatever, that's not part of it. So just consider the signature part. Okay, now this is signature, this is sort, and then this part this is another signature. Okay, so of course these two have different signatures because the second one has one more parameter, right? One more parameter. Okay, so now let me show you another function. So let's just say void, and then just say sort also, and then let's say rev, and then just say integer A, and the rev rev, and then integer B. Suppose you have another function like this, and then this is another signature, right? This is another signature. So with this signature same as this signature, they have A and B and B, and then same name, but they have same signature. No, they don't have the same signature. Reason? Because this one is using integers and this one is using doubles. So these are not the same signature. Now let me give you still one more example. So let's say void and then sort, okay, and then say ref and then double x and then ref double y. Okay, can I create a function like that? And then this time you will see that this is highlighted. This is not allowed. Why? Because you have a signature like this and a signature like that. Okay, and the name is the same. The first one is double, and this also double, and the second one is double, and this also double. So therefore, they have identical signatures, even though these variable parameter names are different. So this x, y, this a, b, that does not matter. All only matters is whether in the same location you have same data type or not. I hope you understand this. So this is not allowed because you have two exactly same function with same name, right? And in the first location you have double, second location is also your double. So therefore they have the same signature. Does not matter this names. The name does not matter. Okay. And what if I create another function, say void, and then sort, and then reference, say double A, and then reference, and then double B, and then reference, and then double C. Okay, and then curly brackets. So in this case, you have no problem because this one, you have 3 parameters, and this has only 2 parameters. And this one has 3 parameters, but they have different types. So this one has A, B, and the last one is like a string, but this last one is double, and also it's a reference. See that? So this one will not be colliding with any other signatures. So only these two will have a problem. These two. Okay, so we have to get rid of this one. Maybe. Make sense? And for this one, this is okay because they have different data types. So this is integer and this is reference. This is integer, this is reference. As long as in the same location has different type of parameter, then you will see that signature is different. So again, so overloading is allowed if, let me write this down, okay? Overloading means use same function name inside the same class. Okay, if it's allowed, if the functions have different signatures. So that is the explanation of the concept. Okay, so again, so this one we showed that we can create a sort in many different ways. So now let's try to call this function. Okay, call this function using the form. So let's go back to here. Let me see what I will do here. So let's see. I will create another few more boxes here. Let's just try to create 3 text boxes, so that we can put 3 values, and then we can press a button, and then the values will be sorted. And we may also use video buttons to say tell whether it's ascending or descending. Okay, so I do a little bit more than minimum. Okay, so let's just do create text boxes first. No, that's not one. I pick up a wrong one. It is track. There's a scroll bar, I think. Text box. Okay, so let's say that is text box A, txta. And then txtd. txt_c. Okay, 3 text boxes, and then let's say the numbers will be sorted. So I'm going to create a button to do that, but also we need to create like a radio button. So okay, let's do radio button first. Video button. Video, yeah, here. So let's just put in here. Okay, so the first one, let's just say this RADA as ascending. So let's put text as ascending. Ascending, okay. And then do the same thing for descending. So let's change that to RADT. And then text is descending. Okay. And then we'll have a button, just call the button. So the button will be used to sort the numbers inside the 3 boxes. Okay, so we'll put a button here. Okay, let's just see. The name is btn sort, and the text is sort. Okay. Let's make this slightly center. Okay. All right, so now let me tell you what we do. So basically we are going to input 3 numbers into these text boxes, and then we choose whether it's ascending or descending and press this button. And then if it's ascending, then I will know the smaller number first, and then second smallest, and the largest number last. Okay, then if you choose descending, and then we'll do, if I sort, now we'll do opposite. Okay, now let's see how can we call this function. And then so the function we are going to call is this one. So basically we need, for reference parameters, we need to declare variable, and also we need to initialize it because it's going to be input, right? And the same thing for this regular input, then we have to declare that and then make it as input, okay? So the first one will be A, so that is double, so double, what happened here? So we declare variable for input and out for each reference parameter. So double, and let's just say A and B. All right. So declare that, and then we also need to declare for output for that for this order. So that will be string. So this is order. Okay. Now we initialize this AB because for reference parameter, for input parameter, just like the input parameter, you have to initialize them. So first A will be equal to, let's see, what do we do? A, so because we are going to have A, B, C, D's. Okay, so let's just do 2, you know what? We are going to have 3 text boxes, right? So we're going to sort in all 3. So we are going to call once first, okay? Let's just call the first one, sort the first 2, A.text, okay. And then I will just do convert to double. So convert the first 2, and then we'll convert, we'll do that for the others step by step. Okay, let's just convert to double again, and then there will be txt b.text. Okay. All right. And this is extra parentheses here. And now then how do we initialize the order? To initialize the order, we have to just do this. Okay, so if RADA, if that is checked, okay, then we make order equals to, then order is equal to ascending, right? Else, otherwise, I will make order equals to B. All right, so with that, we are ready to call the function to sort the first 2 numbers. Okay, so to call this function, because it's a void, so we just simply call the function as the command, so sort, okay? And then you tell what will be A, what will be B. So basically here you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different versions here. Do you see that? So which version, which overloaded version we are going to use? We are going to use not this one and not this one, right? This one we'll be using. Okay, so we are going to say what is A and what is B and then what is auto. Okay, so we say A. Oh, you would say ref A, okay, and the ref B. So that's how you call those parameters. And then for regular input, just specify the input parameter, which is auto. We already initialized it. There we go. Okay, so that's how you call this call the function with output with reference parameters. Okay, so now after we have this A and B, we can just go to let me see what do we do here. Let me you know what? Let's just create create another variable for like a C, okay? And then we'll just use the same function to sort multiple times. So I will do that. Okay, let's just C here, declare another one, and then this will be C equals 2. I will do the same thing, convert to double. So since we have 3 text boxes, txt c.text. Okay, so the order is the same, we do not need to change, but now we just say we sort A with B in the order. And now let's do it again. So let's say I want how do we sort? So after A and B sorted, A will be whatever. So let's assume that is ascending order. A will be smaller than B, right? And then we just need to sort B with C, right? B reference B with reference C. And then also use the same model. Does it make sense? The 2 will be none, right? So we call the function twice. The first one we sort A and B. So make sure A is smaller than B, or A is bigger than B, whatever. And then second time we call the just do the sort again. So between B and C, sort it again. So make B is smaller than C. Is that enough? May not be, because we let's see, we may have to sort again just in case. Let me see which order will be the best. Do we need a 3 sort? Let me see. Sort reference. Do we need A and B again? Maybe. Oh, the same order. Order here. Let's see, how do we sort? Okay, so let's say after we sort A and B, A will be smaller than B, right? Then, let's do this. As A with C first. A with C. That just make sure that the first one will be bigger, so that is correct. So I will do A with C next. So then we will make sure that A is smallest among 3. And then we compare B with C. There we go. So now after we have those numbers, then we can put those numbers back to text boxes. Okay, equals to A, and then txt b.text equals to B, and then txt c.text equals to C. So make sure it's you convert, okay, or just say we're to string, okay, to string. Do the same thing. You can use convert to string. To string. Okay. All right, and we can test it. Should be working now. So basically, just this logic is a little bit is a little bit you need to think a little bit. So first, so basically we have like three types of 3 numbers. So if I compare A with B, and then compare A with C, those, right? And then we finally compare B with C. All right, and let's test it. And then I think, so let's try and put 3 numbers here. So they are doubles, right? They're double numbers. Okay, and then let's try to create another one here. And then let's say I want to do ascending order sort. There we go. Right. So let's do a descending order. Okay, so largest number first. There we go. So that is, I'm going to put a code just for a few seconds and then see whether you have any questions. So just make sure how do you call the functions with reference parameter. You just do, for each reference parameter, you declare a variable and also initialize it. Okay, and then for input, of course, just do as usual, just create a variable and then initialize it. It's unlike output parameter, you just declare it. You don't need initialize, right? So here I will initialize A, B, C. So you can just do 2 at a time, but I will do all of them at once. Get all the values from the text boxes, and then I will just sort. So every time I call this function, just make sure that those parameters are initialized, okay? And then this order is initialized. All right, does anybody have questions? Are you okay, everyone? Let me check whether we have finished everything today. So I think we did. So basically we did the reference here, create method 3 parameters APC, so that the method which one is descending order. So this I did not do that, but instead we do 3 text boxes. Create 2 swap methods, overloading, we talk about that. Descending, so that we did that, okay. And then we sort, okay, so that is everything. Good, we finished everything. All right, and let me stop recording and see whether anybody have last minute questions before